Our sermon text comes from Luke's Gospel, chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. At that very hour, some Pharisees came and said to him, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me, 'Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who were sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you, and I tell you, you will not see me, until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Amen. This is the word of the Lord. And let us go to God in prayer. Gracious God, be with us as we hear your word. Put in us the courage to live your word, now and always. Amen. I recently read an article online that was entitled "Brain Cramps by Famous People." Apparently, these were things that famous people said in an interview, and it was one of those situations in which they spoke first and thought second. On September 17, 1994, Alabama's Heather Whitestone was selected as Miss America 1995. As part of the process, she had to answer the following question: if you could live forever, would you, and why? Her now famous answer is, "I would not live forever because we should not live forever, because if we were supposed to live forever, then we would live forever. But because we're not supposed to live forever, I would not want to live forever." During an interview to become spokesperson for federal anti-smoking campaign, Brooke Shields said, "Smoking kills. If you're killed, you'll lose an important part of your life." When asked about crime in Washington, D.C., then Mayor Marion Barry said, "You know, outside of the killings, Washington is one of the lowest crime cities in the country." Keppel Enderberry said of Australia, "Traditionally, most of Australia's imports come from other places." Colonel Gerald Wellman, an ROT instructor, had this to say regarding discrimination: "We don't discriminate, we simply exclude certain types of people." A congressional candidate in Texas said about his competition, "That low-down scoundrel deserves to be kicked to death by a jackass, and I'm just the one to do it." Could not have this list without a quote from Dan Quayle, who said, "I love California, I practically was raised in Phoenix." But my favorite is a Department of Social Services letter that was sent out to one of its residents that said, "Your food stamps will no longer be delivered to you effective in March because it has come to our attention that you died. If your circumstances change, please feel free to reapply." In today's scripture, we find correct examples of the power of words. These examples have to do with Jesus and the things that he was saying about Herod and about Jerusalem. This passage has important things that speak to our faith. So let's look at some things. The first thing we can look at can be found in verse 31. At that very hour, some Pharisees came and said to him, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." Now, when I read this, I read what I thought had to have been a typo. It says that some Pharisees came and warned Jesus that he was in danger. Well, that can't be right. Was it not the Pharisees? Were they not the ones that was out to get Jesus? The Pharisees were the spiritual elite of their time. They prided themselves in knowing every minute detail of the law, and they believed that entrance into heaven was dependent on strict obedience to that law. They rejected Jesus' claim to be Messiah because he did not unceasingly follow the law and the traditions. The Pharisees were constantly trying to trick him, trying to get him to do or say something that was illegal so that they could brand him as a criminal and they could prevent him from spreading God's teachings. The Pharisees were people that were too worried about their appearance, too focused on how good they were. They placed their laws above human need. They had too much pride and self-righteousness. They supported a religion that focused on performing good deeds. They loved money. They loved their position in their society more than they loved God. Jesus aspired to be none of these things. His focus was on God and grace and forgiveness and love. They accused him publicly of working on the Sabbath, of eating with sinners and undesirable people. They accused him of being in league with Satan. They constantly tried to trick or trap him into doing or saying hypocritical things. And they tried many times to come up with plots to discredit or even kill him. We all have come to know and believe that the word Pharisee is synonymous with an enemy of Jesus. But here we have Pharisees that were trying to help and protect and save him from death. My Life Application Bible in the little commentaries at the bottom says this: the Pharisees weren't interested in protecting Jesus from danger. They were trying to trap him. The Pharisees urged Jesus to leave because they wanted him to stop from going to Jerusalem. Now that seems to fit the behavior of the Pharisees of what we know, and that theory actually makes a lot of sense. But if there were Pharisees that were trying to help Jesus, that opens up a whole lot of possibilities. It shows that Jesus was approachable to everyone. It tells us that God's love is for all who would seek it. It shows that even among the Pharisees, there were those who respected Jesus. It confirms that Jesus was doing the right thing at the right time. And it means that Jesus had an unexpected effect on other people. So let's translate this first point into our lives. When we live and do as Jesus does, we become approachable people. We know and we demonstrate God's love. We focus on doing the right thing at the right time, and we trust and believe that our faith will have an effect on others, even if we never see those results. Jesus knew who he was. Jesus knew what to do, and we would do well in life if we strive to do the same. The next piece of scripture starts in verse 32. Jesus says, "Go and tell that fox for me, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I will finish my work." Now this part of scripture addresses what seems to be Jesus saying unkind things to the ruler of Galilee. And I want to quote from two commentaries. The first is from William Barclay, who addresses why he used the word fox. This passage shows Jesus talking about Herod, who was out to stop him. To the Jewish person, the fox was a symbol of three things. First, it was regarded as the slyest of all animals. Second, it was regarded as the most destructive of all animals. And third, it was the symbol of a worthless or insignificant person. And Leslie J. Hope from Feasting on the Word says about these verses, Jesus' words reflect the disdain he felt for Herod. He dismissed him as powerless to prevent him from carrying on the mission to establish God's rule on earth. So here, based on these commentaries, Jesus is asserting that it is God who is in charge. He used this phrase to show that no matter how powerful a ruler or an unscrupulous person was, Herod did not control Christ. None of his enemies had the power over him because he was following a particular timeline and a particular set of events that God was orchestrating. And as such, Herod could do nothing to stop Jesus from his mission. The issue here is not the words that Jesus used to speak harshly. The issue here is that he recognized and allowed God to be the one in control. Nothing stood in his way from doing God's work. Not know one, not know how. So let's translate that to our lives. How often do outside factors influence and control our relationship with God? We want nothing to stand in our way of our faith and that personal relationship. But I think lots of times that becomes the ideal. How many times does our relationship with God take a back seat to our wants and desires, to doing what is easy rather than what is right? How often do we get so busy we put off things that we should be doing, like praying and studying Scripture? How many times do we fall short? How many times do we seek forgiveness? How many times do we need that grace that only God can give? Now, this is not a judgment or a criticism for me. This is a reminder and an opportunity for us to focus on what should matter most. God is in control of our lives, and when we are faithful to that purpose, then no one can stop us from living out that purpose. The final point this morning comes in verse 34. Jesus says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood, but you are not willing. And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Here we gain some insight into the life of Jesus. We are seeing some real, honest feelings emerging from him. Jerusalem was the city of God, and it symbolized the entire nation, and it served as its spiritual and political capital. Unfortunately, Jerusalem had a history of rejecting God's prophets, and Jesus knew that it would reject him as well. Jesus is saying what he's saying because he knows he is going to be rejected. And I don't care who you are, no one likes rejection. I have dealt with all sorts of rejection in my life, end of relationships, not getting a particular job or making a particular team, being denied membership into here or there, getting that part in the play. I've been fired, I've been dumped, I've been stood up. I'll go as far as to say I even hate making reservations at a restaurant in case they tell me there's no room. As you can see, I've lived a very full life. And even me doesn't like rejection. Jesus loved Jerusalem and its people, but he hated that his heart was being broken. And even though it was being broken, he still offered himself to them. He doesn't say, I'm done with you. There is still that opportunity for the people. So translate this into our lives. God does not give up on us. We are forgiven 70 times 7. We continually receive that gift of grace. Time and time again, God's hand is outstretched and is waiting for us to take hold. In this life, we live by Christ's example. We stay focused on God, and we never give up because God never gives up on us. So for a story today, about a young man named Don who felt the call of the urge to go to seminary, to serve the Lord. Some of us know how that feels. We all, even if you don't go into ministry, you all know that feeling when God speaks to you. So he wanted to see if this was the right thing to do. He enrolled in seminary, started taking classes, was still questioning the call until he had an experience one day by a professor in one of his classes. Everybody came into the class, and the professor said, today we're going to do something different. Today I want you to take out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to draw a picture in as much detail as you can of someone you don't like, of someone you just can't get along with, of someone who has made you angry. And once you've drawn that picture, I invite you to come forward and attach the picture to this target that I placed on the wall, and then you can throw darts at it. There's an example if you need one. Then you can throw darts at the picture, and it's a way to release, it's a way to have closure to the things that you can't control. But Don didn't really know what to do, so he took a peek when they were all drawing the pictures. He looked. The person on his left drew a picture of their cheating spouse. The person on his right drew a picture of that policeman that gave him a ticket just that morning. And he didn't really know what to draw, but he watched around the room, and people were actually having a great time. They were throwing their darts and laughing and being together. Some of them threw their darts at the target so violently that it tore their pictures. And finally, God was ready, and he drew in great detail. Well, it doesn't matter what he drew, because when he stood up to throw the darts, the professor said, "Right, that's all the time we have for that. Please take your seats. It's time to begin the lecture." And in that moment, Don had wished he had drawn a picture of the professor, because he didn't get to throw his darts. But the professor started class, and instead of standing at the podium that day, he did something different. He came out from the podium and he started a lecture up in front of the class. All I can say is he must have been a brilliant man with great insights to stand in front of the class instead of stand there. But as he was giving his lecture, he walked over to where, I guess I can do it here, he walked over where the target was. And as he's talking about love and Jesus and God, he took the target off the wall, and behind the target was a picture of Christ. And the whole class fell in abject silence as they looked at what they unknowingly had done to Jesus. Full of holes, tears, scars, marks. There were so many dart holes on the eyes, it looked like they had been removed. They had been pierced out. And the class sat in stunned silence. And the professor that day ended his lecture by quoting scripture. And he said, "Whatever you do to the least of one of the members of my family, you do to me." And that was his lesson that day. God gives us an opportunity to live our lives for him. And from today's scripture, we can see that when we treat others in the right way, we can focus, we can have that faith, we can do the things we need to do, we can never give up in doing God's work. But conversely, when we reject others, when we don't treat others in the right way, we not only reject God, we reject all that God stands for. In Scripture today, we learn that Jesus would never give up and never let anything or anyone stop him from doing things the way that God would want. And with God's help, with Christ's help, we should be able to do the same. Let us pray. Gracious God, help us not only to say the right things, but to do the right things with our heart, mind, and soul, now and always.